What we have here is a true unicorn, an E30 BMW M3 Cabrio with little more than 1,000 kilometres on it. It's the first convertible M car in history and the symbiosis of performance and luxury. It is also, in my opinion, the best looking BMW 3 Series ever made. The E30-generation BMW M3 was designed specifically with Group A touring car racing in mind and was initially intended to be a limited run homologation special. However, demand quickly outstripped the planned supply and more than 17,000 units were eventually built. The E30 M3 was built in fairly large numbers as a coupe, but this is one of only 786 convertibles ever built and is believed to be one of the last to roll off the production line. The E30 remains one of the most successful touring cars of all time, notching up a raft of championship victories against titans like the Sierra Cosworth and Mercedes 190 Cosworth. The M3 was so successful that BMW even made some special editions in honour of their drivers Roberto Ravaglia and Johnny Cecotto. So when you look at these older BMWs compared to the current lineup, you realise how sort of tight and crisp they look. And of course, this E30 has those beautiful, iconic front headlights and then this lovely kidney grille. Since then we've gone a bit larger, but these ones look absolutely spot on, I think, at this period of BMW's history. The M series cars of this era are much more subtle than those that we have now. There are a few things that would give them away, like these lovely boxed arches. There were no sort of overuse of the M badge. There were just a couple of subtle signs that this was a very special car, like these side skirts running down the side of the car, and again at the back we also had these boxed arches. They weren't there just for show, they actually had a wider track. Now the Cabrio has a self-supporting all-steel body which is welded to the floor to give the extra rigidity this car needs from losing the roof. Now the Cabrio is a little more subtle than the saloon, having lost the spoiler at the back, but otherwise shares all of its main components with the coupe, including these lovely 16-inch cross-spoke alloys. Now there's not a huge amount at the back of the car to denote its sporting pedigree, other than things like the M3 badging and the twin pipe exhaust, which you also got on the 325, I believe. But other than that, to the untrained eye, this would look like a standard BMW 3 Series Cabrio, except that this one's been breathed on by the M-Tech division. We'll look under the bonnet now, but I'd just like to draw attention just to how this hinges. And it's hinged forward when you pop it open, and then just comes over the front headlights there and then just stays in place. It's a lovely little bit of engineering, that. And then we reveal the majesty of this beautiful BMW M Power engine. It is absolutely gorgeous and spotless, may I say, with this example we've got here. You could eat your dinner off the tops of these here. I mean, it's fantastic. It's just so nice to open a bonnet, be able to look at the engine and just see all the mechanisms just moving away. Look at that, that's just fabulous. Now the engine and cam covers actually came in different colours depending on which spec car you have. This one has got the black covers, and actually I think this particular one looks the best, but they did come in red, and then there was a special edition with the M Power 3 tritone colours as well. Under the bonnet sits the 2.3 litre naturally aspirated S14 inline 4, coupled with a 5-speed manual transmission. Initially, the M3 convertible developed 195 horsepower and reached a top speed of 141 miles an hour, which was outstanding performance for a 4-seater convertible of its time. Right, I'm going to jump inside now and have a look at the interior. Woo! You can smell the 80s. Well, welcome then to the interior of the E30 BMW M3, quite a nostalgic place to be, and perhaps BMW M at its peak. A really nice cabin layout this, with the centre console which was directed towards the driver. Everything just felt very driver focused. In front of you, some of these BMW M3s at the time had a 3-spoke M steering wheel. This one doesn't have that, it's much more subtle. But then we've got the trademark white dials and then just a little M-Tech badge which sits between the speedometer and the rev counter. The rest of the interior is very similar to a standard E30 Cabrio, but we do get these occasional sort of flecks of the M-Tech. So on the seats, for example, you can see the M series tricolour, as well as on the gear stick here. So above the rearview mirror, we've got this check panel which enabled you to check the status of things like your brake lights, the coolant and the engine oil. So when you turn the car on, you can just push the check light, and if all the lights light up, then you know that all of those systems are all okay. If there's one light out, then you know you needed to do something about it. Then below here in the center console, we've got something that was quite innovative at the time, and that's an onboard trip computer, so you could check things like your miles to the gallon. Next to that, we've got the hazard and some demisting controls, as well as the buttons to control the convertible roof. And then below those controls, we've got a classic BMW stereo with a cassette player. Then to my right here, next to the handbrake, we've got these cassette magazines for up to 6 cassettes. Now there are back seats, so it does have some semblance of practicality, and of course it has a decent boot, but you don't buy an E30 M3 for practicality. You buy it for its performance and the way it drives. One cool thing is when you go to start up the car, turn the ignition on, and you see this check symbol flash in the center here. You then have to put your foot on the brake to cancel that. Right, pretty exciting stuff, and with all the excitement of getting into an E30 M3, it's important to remember that this is actually a dogleg first, so you don't want to end up shooting yourself off in reverse. So down and left into first, and away we go. One of the things you notice is the exhaust note. It's got this really lovely baritone sound to it. It's always amazing when you get in some of these modern classics, particularly the German ones, and then you see quite how well they've aged in terms of how they feel against the modern counterparts. This is still a very comfortable and easy car to live with, and if you wanted to, you could use it every day. Reading articles and reviews of this car, there was complaints of its slow steering or relative slow steering, but let's face it, the Cabrio is more about blasting round country roads and mountain passes with the hood down and the wind in your hair than it is about setting lap times at the Nürburgring. But if you do want to go fast, then this has got plenty of poke. Compact size is definitely an advantage on back roads like this. It feels very manageable indeed. I'm actually also really surprised with how well insulated this is for a late 80s, early 90s convertible. There really is very little wind noise. As I said, this is a super low mileage example, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time blasting around these roads today. We've just come out to try and get a feel of this, just enough to get a little bit of that M series magic. Can you imagine having one of these in period? I mean, oh my goodness. And never mind back then, these things look absolutely fabulous now. BMW M Division really went the extra mile with this car and fitted it with enhanced suspension, improved aerodynamics, larger tyres and better brakes, and the result is a car that is fun and easy to drive. If you buy this car, let us know what you plan to do. I'd love to sort of trace the journey of this car and see whether it ends up in a collection, or whether you buy it, you're a massive enthusiast and you decide to daily it if you're bold enough. I certainly would if I had a car like this. I'd be driving around in it all the time. I mean, it's super, super cool. Oh man, the want is really strong with this one. I'm totally smitten with this car, as you might be able to tell. Getting up close to it is an absolute dream. When I was growing up, it was a very rare thing to see something like a Lamborghini Countach. But these, you could see racing on the TV on a Sunday, and then Monday you might be lucky enough to see one in the street. So they are very special cars. This one is online at the moment on Collecting Cars. Go check it out, check out all the photos and the full listing. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.